thought there was no way out. Yeah, I used to be scared of the light, and I was swallowed by doubt. I'd forgotten what freedom was like. Puzzle pieces on the floor, they don't fit in anymore. I'm changing, I'm changing. When they ask you who I am, what I've done and where I've been, there's one thing I want you to say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, now I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell them I'm brave. Some days I come out on top, and some days I can't catch a break. But when that fire don't stop, I won't wish my troubles away. I've been down and I've been out, but if you look at me now, I'm blooming, I'm moving into better, brighter days. Yeah, this hope is here to stay. There's only one thing I can say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, now I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell them I'm brave. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And we're gonna fight. Gonna be alright. Yeah, we're gonna fight. Together every step of the way. You can tell them we're brave. Now we're not afraid. We are bigger than anything coming our way. It's a new day. Now we're not afraid. So if anyone asks you how we overcame, you can tell them we're brave. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You can tell them we're brave. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You can tell them we're brave.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kaya Connor. I am a licensed social worker, the Vice President of the National Alliance on Mental Illness for the state of Florida, and Associate Professor of Mental Health Law and Policy at the University of South Florida.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tonicia Freeman-Foster, and I am a certified diversity professional. I am also a change specialist with Change Matrix and co-founder of Kasuti Consulting Group. Kaya, it has been an honor to serve as a co-producer with you on this series of This Is My Brave, Stories from the Black Community. Having conversations about mental health is both healthy and necessary for each of us to live our best lives.
Most definitely, Tonicia. And starting the conversation about mental health is tough, but it is so important, especially now in a time when the world is grappling with its longstanding history of systematic racism and protests against police brutality. Right now, important conversations regarding the mental health and wellness of African Americans are being brought to the surface. And This Is My Brave, Stories from the Black Community, has provided a platform for our 16 amazing cast members from across the United States to bravely share their stories of mental illness and treatment, recovery, and hope, to shine a light and amplify the voices within the Black community.
This is why I'm super excited about this opportunity and this movement, Kaya. The cast members have worked extremely hard, and I'm so excited for the world to see and hear what we've had the privilege to witness over the past few months. Storytelling has always been a cornerstone for information sharing within the Black community. Throughout our history, we've shared stories of our successes, oppression, injustices, tragedies, and traditions. We found healing in expressing ourselves through song, dance, comedy, art, and spoken word. Our stories are powerful, our stories are critical to our existence, and our stories save lives.
Exactly, Tonicia. So we want to thank our cast members for their willingness to share their stories in this virtual platform. It has truly been a blessing to work with all of you. We want to thank the University of South Florida, for it is with their funding through a call for research to understand Blackness and anti-Black racism that we were able to fund this production. We also want to thank the students at the University of South Florida, We Care, NAMI, the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, and all of our community partners and volunteers who have supported this movement.
Today, our cast members are sharing valuable, courageous, and powerful gifts with the world, their stories, their lives, and their voices. As we prepare for the privilege to journey alongside of each of them today, we ask that you please enter this space from a place of love, respect, support, and empathy. Thank you again for joining us.
So remember when everyone got really into that game, Among Us? Like the one where the good guys try to identify the imposters lurking in their midst and kick them off the spaceship, while the imposters sneak around and pretend to complete tasks to try and avoid being exposed as a fake. Well, I've always thought that I would make a first-rate imposter, because ever since I was a child, I've been successfully hiding the fact that I've always felt as if I was somewhere I was not supposed to be. For example, when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, my mother realized that kids who are good at math later in life are usually just introduced to mathematical concepts earlier than their peers. So she convinced my math teacher to let me into the very advanced Red Folder Math Group. It was a very elite club that met during recess and helped us develop our mathematical intuition with math puzzles and logic problems. Unlike my classmates' parents, my mother didn't attend a top university or hold a professional degree of any kind, so she wasn't able to do enrichment problems with me at home. So she asked my teacher to recommend a tutor so I could do some extra math problems and keep pace with my fellow Red Folder Math group mates. My teacher dismissively remarked that I didn't need enrichment work and I should be happy where I was. Suffice to say, her expectations for me were not very high. So naturally, without the extra support, I became rather self-conscious about being in red folder math. Since I wasn't practicing advanced arithmetic at home, I wasn't the best of the bunch, but it was very important to me that I was not the worst. And as much as I like logical reasoning, I couldn't enjoy learning to problem solve because I was too busy making sure that my classmates didn't think I was the affirmative action kid of an elementary school math club. Stereotype threat starts very early in wealthy, predominantly white suburban schools, let me tell you. So as you can imagine, getting a fluke 48 on a math quiz in middle school was devastating. I was distraught to the point of being physically sick. Despite my perfect homework assignments and strong understanding of pre-algebra, I was petrified that somehow I didn't actually know any math and had been faking it since elementary school. When I followed that quiz up with a 64, that sealed the deal. I became convinced that I wasn't good enough for advanced math, and I was only there because my mother persuaded my teachers to place me there, and that everyone was inevitably going to find out that I knew absolutely nothing and was going to be profoundly disappointed. The constant anxiety about exposing myself clouded my ability to remember content as I was studying. It kept me from showing what I did know during tests, and it rendered me absolutely silent during class. I was too frightened of giving a wrong answer to say anything at all, let alone ask a clarifying question. And this followed me into high school. Eventually, I just kind of accepted, well, I'm just bad at math. I stopped trying to understand things and just focused on taking steps to make sure that no one ever found out. I fought my way through advanced classes with some variable results, and 4 years of potential learning and growth passed me by. But all I cared about was what colleges cared about, and all colleges care about are results. This is just a fact. Many of my classmates just wanted to live their lives and go to a college that made them happy, but they also weren't living on charity in an affluent suburb, and I was. An elite university was my ticket to a better financial situation for my family, and also for the peace of mind that comes with agency and independence. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but chasing success hits different when you're a poor Black girl in a wealthy white world, and when you need to earn your place and convince well-connected people to take a chance on you and to seize opportunities that don't come often. And that's why our parents demand excellence. It's to prepare us for being a diversity token and having to rep our communities. I just wish that our society could move past its obsession with Black resilience and face the fact that hashtag Black excellence shouldn't be the terms and conditions of Black existence. Anyway, by the time I got to college, overworking was a habit. I was committed to creating the perfect college experience for the hallowed best 4 years of my life, and proceeded to push myself straight to a level 1 trauma center with elevated cardiac enzymes and chest pains. I did wonder what had happened to cause me to collapse and require a cardiac catheterization as a 19-year-old with no pre-existing conditions, but I never pressed the issue. For one, I didn't want to be sick. I didn't want to worry my family, especially considering they had very real problems. And I also didn't want to be forced to take a break. I was a college student with a lengthy bucket list, and my family did not have the money to send me abroad, so I was going on the university's dime come hell or high water. I had the wherewithal to realize that once physical illness had been ruled out, it was very likely psychological. And I had taken enough psych classes to know that therapy is a process. I had generated a full-page resume for my freshman year alone, so suffice to say, I did not have a minute to spare for therapy. But spoiler alert, this is not where I give up the idea that success is king and start pursuing my happiness. That actually never happens. The closest I get is realizing that success is my happiness. Because despite what people say when they return from volunteering for a week in a third world country with the happy-go-lucky poor people who taught them how to be grateful, poverty, trauma, and disenfranchisement are risk factors for depression, anxiety, PTSD, and a host of other conditions, both mental and physical. Basically, the odds are you will be happier and healthier without them. So for me, success means having the control over my life that my family didn't always have when I was growing up. Success means being able to give back to my family and to my community. Success means paying it forward and making sure that no one ends up in the hospital because they think they have to be a strong, resilient Black woman, when in fact, they should be able to get the help that they need to pursue their dreams in a healthy way. And since realizing that if I was going to convince myself that I'm not a fake and an imposter, I'd actually have to meet some of my ridiculous expectations, I've taken steps to avoid going back to the cardiac unit. I've consciously prepared to prove myself in advanced coursework by working on getting out of depressive episodes and ignoring the nagging voice of anxiety. I've actually stocked up on healthy coping mechanisms and rallied my support system. So when I look in the mirror, I can tell the hater staring back at me to shut up a minute and watch me change their mind. I'm Amani Carson, and this is my brave.
Hi, everybody. My name's Nieisha Deed, and I'm here to share a little bit about my story with you today. I hope that you learn something from my story. I hope that you take away that there's hope after being in a dark space, and that everyone's wellness journey is completely different. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I grew up. I grew up in a family where survival was the most important thing. So what does that mean? Well, it means that making money was more important really than anything else. It was more important than my emotions and my feelings. It was the most important thing. So I stuck with that, and I went to college and I majored in a major that I didn't really care about, accounting. Yep, spent 15 years in it actually. And towards the end, I just started feeling so sad. I mean, I had reached all those different levels, right? I had reached the 6 figures, I was upper management, but for some reason, I still was not happy. Actually, I was really depressed. So in December of 2017, under so much pressure at work and feeling so empty, I decided I didn't want to be here anymore. So I wrote a note to my family and I told them, hey, look, guys, the money's here in the bank. You don't have to worry about me. I don't deserve to be here anymore. I'm, all these bad things, you're better off without me. And then I decided this is the day that I'm ending my life and I no longer want to be here. Well, thank God for my family and my community. They knew something was up. I woke up the next day. There were police officers at my door, and they said, ma'am, we're doing a wellness check. Are you okay? And the evidence was right by where I was standing, so I couldn't lie. And I told them, no, I'm not okay. I said, you're coming with us. Don't worry, you won't have a record. You're not in any trouble, but we want to get you some help. So December 2017, right before Christmas, I was in a mental health institution. Thankfully, my cousin and my sister came down to be with me. They're from New England, and I was living in the DC area. And they stayed with me, and they made sure that I was okay. And once I left, they said, you know what? You're coming with us, and we're going to take care of you. My family literally saved my life. So what happened after that? Well, there's some good news that came from this story, guys. I decided no more accounting for me. I am done, okay? I decided that after learning of my cousin's death from suicide, that I was gonna focus my life on, one, sharing my story like I'm doing today, and then two, being on a wellness journey. So what did I do? I decided to start my own organization called Pure Spark. Pure Spark helps people of color in the Massachusetts area on their wellness journey. What I learned from my journey was, in the beginning, I needed to be in a mental health institution. And then as I slowly got better, I phased out to outpatient help with therapists, and actually it was group therapy. And then after group therapy, I had weekly one-on-one appointments with my therapist. Then I added on yoga, and then I tried meditation. And each thing that I learned helped to make me feel better. So I wanted to share this with people. And I hope I can share it with you too one day. You know, we're launching in January of 2021. And some of the things that we're doing now to help people is we have peer support groups, and we introduce people to all the different forms of healing that's out there. Have you heard of Reiki before? I didn't. I learned that it was a Japanese practice that helps with your energy and helps with healing your energy in your body. I even learned that they use this in the hospital. I know, my sister's a nurse and she told me about it. So I was super surprised when I learned about it. So I hope to share more stuff like this with people so that I can help them along on their healing journey. I hope today that you learned something interesting, something new. I hope that you learned that there's hope. I hope that you learned how important it is for family to reach out to family and check in. Our community is suicide prevention. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Take care, be well. Bye.
Hi, my name is Jacquelyn Davis, and this is my Brave. My journey with schizoaffective disorder is likely compared to a baseball field. Bases 1 through 4. I'd like to share my story today through photography and self-portraits. I've labeled all the bases: base 1, confusion; base 2, isolation; base 3, acceptance; and base 4, empowerment. I'd like to share each of those bases and how it pertains to my story. Base 1, confusion. Schizoaffective disorder was something I thought was the farthest thing from me before getting diagnosed at 17. It was an interesting topic on MTV's True Life, but it wasn't my life, and I was pretty far removed from it, so I thought. I never really knew a single person who came out with their disease to me, and I thought I had never met a person with serious mental illness. And I think that was a big part of my ignorance toward the mental health community. According to NAMI, 63% of African Americans believe that having a mental illness is a sign of weakness. I later dropped out of high school, later receiving my GED. Closer to 17, I did have a psychotic break, and I remember just going out of the window and falling into the mud, running as fast as I could, and luckily a search team found me. The kindest woman took me into her house and dressed me up into her clothes. She even cleaned me off and brought me back to my parents. And for that, I'm always going to be so grateful. I landed in the psych ward, and my experience there was not very good. According to a doctor's study from the National Institute of Health, schizophrenia and those with serious mental illness are less likely to get the care they need because of stigma. Base 2, isolation. I was in the hospital for 2 months, almost becoming institutionalized. I would beg who I call God to get me out of the situation and send me home. And I nagged the staff so hard, and I was a little bit better, so they let me go home to my parents. It was there that my wonderful parents and family nursed me back to health, administered my meds, made sure I got what I needed to help me get better. It turned out that my mental health would not be my only fight, that I would actually be dealing with physical health problems that kind of might have contributed to my downward spiral in the first place. It actually took going to the Mayo Clinic to find out what was really going on with me. And when I was 22, I received my first IVIG treatment, which really jump-started my path to recovery. Base 3, acceptance. Acceptance is always evolving for me as I learn more about myself, my illnesses, and my triggers daily. I'm lucky to have a very supportive family that was supportive from the start. And as we navigate the mental health world together, I'm learning how lucky I am to have that. I know that acceptance isn't always taking your medicine at the same time every day. It's not always having a routine or informing your friends. It's how you feel about yourself. And even if mental illness is not your problem, there is a faith that you have to have for yourself in this world, and that is not something I always knew. I always had strength, but I didn't always feel good about myself. I'm learning to work hard every day through affirmations, prayer, and gaining new friendships. I am learning to appreciate life, Alabama, and its growing arts community. And I know now that I can do anything. If I am able to put myself out there, I can overcome. It isn't enough to persevere sometimes. It's okay to adult when you're scared. My throat clutches my heart and my back seems to turn into knots every single time I feel like I'm walking outside of what I know. But I know now that I have to go after what's unknown, because that's where I'm going to find where I truly belong. So we got to the home run, empowerment. At age 29, I've been able to start the online growing platform called Safe Place Art. I named it Safe Place Art because I always wanted a safe place, somewhere that I could create and call home. And I know a lot of people who are disabled feel the exact same way, so I called it Safe Place Art. I work with everyone, but I love highlighting disabilities and highlighting my story, and I love connecting with other people that have similar circumstances. I also love sharing my talents, so that's something that really fulfills me and empowers me. I've also been able to be on local New York television. I've been able to record an EP that I wrote and have that recording studio experience. As I remind myself all the things that make me human and more than schizophrenic and more than disabled, I hope that you can tell yourself how special you are. I love my skin and I'm learning to love myself, not just on a good day. We all have our stories, and I hope mine inspired you today. I am a daughter, a sister, and a friend. My name is Jacquelyn, and this is my Brave.
27th, 2006 was like any other day. Being a freshman in high school and barely having any freedom, but trying to make the best of it. I was on the phone for hours, laughing with my male best friend. He was helping me get over some dumb jock who broke my heart. Talk about a Degrassi episode. But what happened next, even television shows could not prepare me for. While I was asleep, my phone died. I woke up to a very unusual voicemail. He left a message expressing how much he loves me and values our friendship. I then got a panic phone call from another friend saying she's concerned he is in danger or has hurt himself. No one was able to get through to him, and no one had any idea on his whereabouts. Then phone calls from police officers started trickling in, trying to piece together where our missing friend might be. While trying to distract my mind and push out any extreme possible outcome that was playing as a scenario, the phone call came in. My friend is dead. The words rang pain in my ears, and wrapping my head around the news was not something I was capable of doing. Then I learned the details. He wanted to leave as a soldier and jumped into the train tracks and marched to his death. May 28th, 2006, my 15-year-old friend took his own life. A guy who had a rough upbringing and an emotional story, but had the silliest, crooked tooth, infectious smile that always wanted to ensure those around him were happy, took his life, and I could not process this. My first taste of mental health within our community and not recognizing the signs, the fact that there were signs, and even understanding what that means to be emotionally and mentally unwell. This was age 14. Fast forward 6 years. Ironically, on the same holiday, Memorial Day weekend, I met my then boyfriend. We were like magnets, instantly attracted to each other, and very much so passionate people fighting our own demons without realizing. We were abusing vices together and then abusing each other together. Another front row seat to a Black man in America who was suffering his own mental battles while I was suffering my own and not knowing or understanding what the truth was behind the two because we were never exposed or taught what depression looks like. Depression consumed my life, and I was unaware of what was going on. I was having extreme mood swings going from rage to extreme breakdowns over the slightest inconvenience. Growing up with an immigrant Caribbean mother, those things were not acknowledged or accepted. With everything to be grateful for, how dare we feel sad or unwell about ourselves? I kept holding on to my pain, my trauma, and it was continuously building without any form of release. I was not processing. I was just continuing onward, and because I could overcome adversity, I was not thinking about any of my situations I had been through to be actual situations. Being date raped by a college employee who was 10 years older than me and placing blame on myself because I knew better. Holding on to hurt from being blindsided by those that I trusted because I knew better. Not achieving or fulfilling the life that people projected for myself because I'm supposed to know better. I was disappointed, uncomfortable, and unsure of myself. I couldn't find my voice and essentially felt imprisoned in my own mind and just was lashing out everywhere. This was age 22. 6 years after that relationship rightfully dissolved, I found myself in a new predicament. This stoic and private guy whom I had in my life for some time started becoming more comfortable opening up to me. All the ugly history and current misfortunate situations that were haunting his life that he did not and could not admit to within his own circle, he was finding that safe space releasing with me. I was holding and wiping tears from a man whom in his neighborhood he is feared and respected. I was holding his fears, his childhood trauma, as well as his PTSD. What I also did not realize was I was holding his energy as well. Some call it soul ties, and not all end like fairy tales. Ours surely did not. After we had one of our longest heart-to-hearts, I asked him about therapy. His response was, "Why go to therapy when I can speak to people like you?" In which I responded, "Because I'm not a professional." However, walking back into my house, those words and that conversation kept replaying, as many of our conversations did. I cannot shake them off of me. I heard a conversation I had with a coworker 4 months prior play in my head. He said there's such a push for Black women seeking healing, therapy, and starting to take care of themselves mentally. What about Black men? Black men cry too. It was a very odd epiphany that rang off, but everything started flashing back. My history of holding space for men to be open and vulnerable and recognizing they need an outlet to be heard and essentially be seen. My personal connection to this need, being raised by a woman where vulnerability and weakness were not granted grace, and building tough skin and even tougher exterior to ensure your protection and progression. We are living in a society where it appears as though our lives, and especially Black male lives, are not worth it. Repeatedly watching them being senselessly taken away by authority with no justice, and not being told or taught it's okay to feel and express feelings and emotions. Essentially further causing a detrimental, vicious, generational curse of a cycle within our community from our homes, upbringing, and most importantly, the advancement and progression as a whole. That conversation sparked the development of Black Men Cry Too, which is an invitation for men of color to feel safe to share their truth and unpack their hurt. The space was created as an invitation for Black men to feel empowered to share their truth and know it's okay, that they can cry too. Using this platform to act as a stepping stone to promote and jumpstart men's healing journey by showing support of a woman of color, actively listening, and helping them share their story to break the taboo stigma of the tough capability to have these conversations and show the true perspective of being a Black man in America, which is told completely different by mainstream media. Black men carry a lot and have no place to unload their weight. And through all of my heartbreaking experiences, using that to recognize a gift to help others never feel hopeless, low, broken, abused, alone, or incapable. Building support and a community around unlearning and healing. This has been my current journey. This is 28. I'm Catherine, and this is my brave.
Hi, my name is Dederick Woodard, and this is my brave. This is a story about how I learned to be a caretaker for somebody that I cared for more than words could express. I remember when I first met her. I mean, this woman was phenomenal. Okay, she was at my cousin's shop. My cousin had his hair braiding shop, and she was out there. She was selling food, and she was looking like a cute girl. And so when I had on like a Ranger shirt with a suit on, and I was like, I wanted her attention. And so my cousin said to me, because I had a situation, she came up to me, she like, hey, I'm the author, I'm here today, I got some books, today. It's called Don't Call Me Crazy, I'm Just in Love. I said, oh, that's nice. She said, would you like to enjoy a book? I'm like, well, my finances kind of ain't where they should be right now. But thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day. She kept it. I was like, whoa, because I didn't really feel too comfortable being egged. So I was like, all right, so, yeah, you know what? And my cousin saw me, she's like, look, cuz, just go outside and help. So, I did my thing, see, y'all don't know, I know how to talk to people a little. So I went out there, I sold one book. She looked at me like, okay. 2, 3 books, okay. And then before I left, she gave me $100. And I was like feeling like I was on cloud nine. So, and that developed into one friendship. And I got a chance to know my wife, and oh my God, but this was before she was my wife, and she was just this beautiful young lady I wanted to know a little more. And as I became a friend, and I found out that they say she had mental health challenges. And I was like, I ain't seen that. Because she was looking like, ain't nothing mentally wrong with this person, the way she was looking. And so I couldn't really, kind of like see what the challenge was, because she had everything in order. The way she talked to people, we got to the point where we was doing outreaches in the community. And I'm like, whoa. And she was helping me to go to another level and teaching me how to talk and how it works. And, when you work with people with mental health challenges, and I'm like, okay. So she out there, we going to schools, we at the recreation centers, and we out there, we talking to families and doing workshops. And, I went from friend to like close to the most. I enjoyed the ride and still enjoying the ride, okay? And then I got to the privilege of realizing that she was the woman that I never wanted to walk away from. So I asked her that forever question, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, let's do it. And amazing every day. And it came to the point to where it went from, being a friend, learning about being a caretaker. Now I'm learning about being a lover and a husband. And it was awesome. And the first challenge came forth. And the challenge came when we had a baby. All right. False allegations were placed in front of us. And just to let you know, okay, one thing was said that we were homeless, but we got sent the subpoena to our apartment. It was a roller coaster ride, but we made it through it, okay? But that was the first time it got real. My wife, when they took the baby from the hospital, because it was called saying the baby was ready, we called them like, okay, boom. So we thought that it was, some misunderstanding somewhere. And that's when I first experienced what my wife was telling me about, but I knew that what she equipped me with would help me to help them to help her, because I found out that when I was dealing with the hospitals, that you got to teach people how to love the people you love. You got to show them through your actions, through being available, to assist them to understand that this somebody you care about, you're going to be there every day. And so here I was, not just being a friend, not just being a husband, but I was being a caretaker. And her mom was beneficial. She was there talking to me, my other mama, and she was just like, everybody was being family. We were supporting and loving on each other. And all the chains of not understanding began to fall off. And then I began to fall into place of how to be the caretaker, how to teach them how to love my wife. Like I want to love her. I want them to love them so I can love them more. And I'm like, wow, this is what it's like to be a caretaker. You're equipping those to care for those who you love. And it was great. And I tell you, it went from a great, horrible thing to a great, amazing thing. And I would change some things, but it was a privilege to know, how to be brave, how to plug into resources and support systems, to know, watch your mom be a friend, watch your family be supportive and say, hey, you know what, this is how I get in, this is how I fit in. And then learning how to switch lanes. I'm her husband. And so I'm loving her, they're loving her. If I don't like something, this is how I transition, I communicate. You gotta, people can't hear you, they can't help, and my wife is amazing. She helps me to be a better me, to organize, even to be able to communicate with you at this point in time. I've been receiving assistance, you know? And so if one thing I want you to walk away with is, as a caretaker, it's okay to always be learning. You know, it's okay to always say, hey, I need help. I don't know it all, you know, and to not get an attitude when people come around you try to take you to the next level, you know? So I just want to say thank you. I'm Dederick Woodard, and this is my brave. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Swiyyah Woodard, and this is my brave. I always saw myself as normal. I never had any disciplinary problems in school. I made decent grades. My mom said I was the most normal child she ever had. So when I was diagnosed with mental illness, it was really shocking to me. I studied psychology, and I would read textbooks like abnormal psychology. And I would look at a picture of a person with mental illness, and it didn't look like me. So I said, oh, I don't have no mental illness. But is there a look? No, anybody can get mental illness. It's a false image of what mental illness looks like. I had a tough life. I grew up in the projects, abused as a child. My brother, he died by suicide, and I was molested. It was very traumatic, and I had to hold all this in. I don't know why I never seek therapy. That would have been a good idea to seek therapy, but I thought I had it all together. And one day I broke. I moved to Orlando. I thought I was getting married. I started seeing faces in the sheets, started getting migraine headaches every day for 6 months, every day. I mean, that job was hard. And those were signs right there. And so I was hospitalized. And the psychiatrist said, you have paranoid schizophrenia. I said, no, look at me. I keep myself up. No way, I don't have this. And I was hospitalized in Baker Wright for like 6 times. And I eventually got enough courage to take medication. And so I went to a pharmacist. And that was hard because finally I had to admit that something was wrong with me and I needed help, right? So I went to the pharmacist. And I said, I need help. Here's my prescription. And he saw me crying. He saw me upset. He said, you're okay. You're just mentally exhausted. Take your medication. You'll be fine. And I've been taking medication ever since then. And 14 years, I was doing great. And then I had a relapse when I had my child, and that was very tough. But I'm on medication now, and I would advise anybody, if you're diagnosed with a disorder, if you're a professional coach or therapist or psychiatrist says that they feel you should be on medication, listen to them. Because all that trauma that you're going through, you don't have to go through. And man, I heard about This Is Brave, and I felt like it was such a great connection because I want to help end the stigma on mental illness. So today, I'm a published author. My book is called Don't Call Me Crazy, I'm Just in Love. And it's inspired by my true story of surviving schizophrenia. And I wrote it because I didn't want other people to suffer like I had to suffer. I wanted people to live a happy and productive life, and you can. Oh, I'm living a happy life right now. You can. And so I want to read just a little bit of my book. She is so scared to admit she has a problem. but she has to build up the strength to ask for help. She calls her mother on the way to the pharmacy. Mom, I'm having racing thoughts. I feel like I'm going to have a nervous breakdown, Nika says. You know you can always call me. I won't judge you, Miss Muhammad says. Please come by the pharmacy near Moses' apartment. That's where I'll be. Anika finally pulls up to the pharmacy and rushes over to the pharmacy tech, who is dressed in a white jacket. She hands him her prescription. He looks at the prescription and he gives her a judgmental look, like he's staring into the eyes of a lunatic. This prescription is expired. Is this the only prescription you have? Pharmacy tech asks. Yes, Anika replies. The pharmacist sees she's in distress and walks out of the pharmacy to hold her hand. Tears rush from her scarlet red eyes. I've had a cup of wine, and I'm afraid if I take medication, the medication will cause a bad interaction, Nika says. Do you have a current prescription? When was the last time you saw a doctor? The pharmacist asked. A while ago. Mrs. Muhammad then pulls up, crying tears of pain. Does she have a current prescription? The pharmacist asked. No, I don't believe she does. It's been a while since she's seen a psychiatrist, Mrs. Muhammad says. Why didn't you take your medication? Ms. Muhammad asked. I didn't want to feel or admit that I was crazy. Only crazy people take medication. I tried the medication for a few days and then stopped. Admitting I have a problem is the hardest thing for me, Anika says. You're not crazy. A lot of my customers come in for psychotic medications. You are just mentally exhausted. You're a beautiful woman. You're not crazy. It's best to take your medication so you can be yourself. No one is going to judge you. There's nothing wrong with taking medication. A lot of people have to take medication for the rest of their lives. People with high blood pressure, diabetes, a lot of people. Take your medication and you can feel normal again. Your daughter has been drinking wine, so she cannot take medication at this time. Take her to the nearest emergency room and be sure they know of this, the pharmacist said. This is my book, Don't Call Me Crazy, I'm Just in Love. It's inspired by my true story. I survived schizophrenia. I'm pushing forward. I'm not going to stop. I'm Swiyyah Woodard, and this is my brave.
journaling prompt appeared and sounded simple. Write a letter to your 10-year-old self. But the task was anything but simple. Staring at the page, rereading the cold black words inside the sentence. Words that were patiently waiting for, anticipating my response. Instead, I lost my voice. My thoughts became numb. Goosebumps rose on my forearms. Heart palpitations emerged between shortness of breaths. Fingers trembled in fear to pick up the pen. For the first time in my life, I felt afraid to write. I felt afraid to confront my 10-year-old self because there was much sadness inside his brown eyes, a traumatic concoction of depression and grief whose after effects sometimes haunts his 50-year-old adult counterpart. 4 decades later, from being bullied by a 4th grade classmate while his homeroom teacher did nothing to stop the abuse, to the loss of his maternal grandmother, his lifeblood, less than a month after his birthday, to feelings of rejection in basketball, baseball, or football games due to lack of athleticism, always being the last person picked or never chosen at all, to his family's happy home slowly disintegrating away, less than a year away from parental separation, with divorce right around the corner in the next year, to fears about his fate and society regarding his race, emotionally disturbed after seeing the movie Stir Crazy. No one was aware that seeds of self-hatred were planted and took root inside his fertile, precocious mind, loathing his racial identity, questioning his purpose for living at such a young age, sometimes falling asleep to silent prayers to God, begging him to not wake up the next day, but finding disappointment when opening his eyes in the morning. There are no words I can say to either heal his soul or alter history, but pushing past the pain, looking on the flip side of the emotional coin, I see and acknowledge the joy inside his brown eyes, joy that inspired me and continues to do so 4 decades later. And if there's anything I can and want to say to my 10-year-old self, it is, thank you, Bill. Thank you for finding your voice through artistic expression, from being influenced by watching The Empire Strikes Back, studying Greek mythology, and reading Marvel Comics. Thank you for never letting me forget our maternal grandmother, our lifeblood. Although she is with the ancestors, she still lives inside our spirit, and we are her legacy. Thank you for coping with both loneliness and rejection in your pre-adolescence, through imaginary friends, despite being teased by your relatives, or playing with your fingers. Thank you for gaining strength through crying many tears, despite your father's attempt to stifle your emotions at his Uncle Fred's funeral because Dad didn't want to address his agony. Thank you for discovering pride in yourself as a Black man in early adulthood years after reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man and the autobiography of Malcolm X. Thank you for waking up each morning to unanswered childhood prayers, recognizing there's a purpose for living and the best is yet to come. You, young prince, are and will always be this king's hero. Without you, I would not be the man I am today. My name is Bill Holmes, and this is my brave.
Thank you for attending our show. This is My Brave, Stories from the Black Community. Our phenomenal cast demonstrated their generosity and bravery in sharing authentic stories of their lives, challenges, perseverance, and strengths. The stories you heard today are a sample of many that exist within and around us. Mental illness is more common than we realize, and it impacts our families, friends, neighbors, co-workers, classmates, church members, social media friends, and community members. We may never know the story of the person in the vehicle next to us or the person taking our order at our favorite store or restaurant, but we can do our part to reduce stigma. We hope there was at least one thing that resonated with you that you will take with you throughout your personal and professional journey. We also hope that your experience with us today empowers you to live your truth and gives you the awareness necessary to inspire others to live their truth as well. Just remember, mental health is health too. Thank you all again for attending. Be safe and be well.